Ever felt like loneliness is a curse instead of a path to something deeper? Stick around to discover how solitude can actually set you free. Hey friends, welcome back to Inner Guide Galaxy, your go-to place for simple, down-to-earth spiritual insights. I'm your host, and today we're diving into how embracing solitude can transform your life and lead you to greater peace. The Buddha once said, "He who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone in diligent practice, and alone tames himself, should find delight in living in the forest." That powerful quote sets the stage for everything we'll talk about today. Living alone, being alone, can be scary for many people these days. Think about it, our culture often tells us that a good life means being surrounded by loved ones, by things, by activity. It can feel unnatural to step back and simply be by yourself. Often, our society portrays a successful life, a happier life, a good life as one that is surrounded by people and things. When everyone else seems connected, always sharing, posting, chatting, it can be easy to feel like something is wrong if you choose solitude. But there's a reason why almost all spiritual practices, almost all spiritual pathways praise and promote this living alone life, this life of solitude practice. Nearly every tradition has this thread that the deeper work happens when you pull away from noise and distraction. That is why almost all the religious leaders had to remove themselves from the hassles and busyness of society, go to quiet places, and find liberation, the very thing they were looking for. History shows us that those who achieved deep insight often did so in silence, away from crowds. The same went for the Supreme Buddha. So let's look at his journey as an example. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince living in a palace, indulging himself in sensual pleasure. Imagine all the comforts, a life of luxury, yet still feeling a pull towards something more. Then he understood that indulging in sensual pleasures doesn't help him find what he's looking for. At some point, he realized that endless pleasure could never satisfy the questions in his heart. So he left the palace and went from one forest to another, meditating and finding this ultimate peace. Leaving everything behind, he trekked from forest to forest, testing different practices. Living alone can be a blessing if it is converted into a blessing. Solitude itself isn't inherently good or bad, it's what you do with it that matters. But living alone can also be a curse. When you don't use that time well, it can spin you into a spiral of negative thinking. For many people, that's why they are often scared or afraid of living alone. It's understandable if you've never experienced healthy solitude. It can feel like an empty void. Most of the time, people come to me and say, "I'm lonely. I'm living alone, but I feel so lonely. I have so many negative thoughts coming into my mind. What should I do?" I hear this all the time: loneliness pulling you down because your mind doesn't have a task or direction. That is what happens when you turn loneliness into a curse. When you see solitude as something to be escaped, it only makes those negative thoughts louder. Trust me, it all depends on how you think and how you use this time. You have the power to transform that feeling if you shift your intention. I will tell you a story. Let me share one of the most important stories I know. Prince Siddhartha the Buddha left the palace and went to a forest. He traded walls and riches for trees and simplicity. There were 5 monks who were waiting for him in the forest. These monks had been his teachers in a sense, guiding him toward what they believed was liberation. These 5 monks were helping Prince Siddhartha with meditation before his awakening. They taught him practices that were extremely austere. They believed that the only way to find liberation was through harsh and extreme austerities, what we call Tikka Yoga, which can be translated as self-mortification. Tikka Yoga meant pushing the body to its limits, fasting, wearing belts that dug into the skin, everything aimed at conquering desire. When he left the palace, he left one extreme, the extreme of sensual pleasures. He went from abundance to scarcity, thinking that denying the body would lead to freedom. Then he came to the other extreme by practicing self-mortification, subjecting his body to harsh, extreme meditation. For 6 long years, he sat under trees, barely eating, hardly sleeping, trying to punish his body to gain insight. For 6 years, Prince Siddhartha practiced these meditations. That's a long time to put your body through extreme conditions. Finally, he understood that this extreme didn't help him either. He realized that punishing himself was just as unhelpful as indulging in every comfort. So he found the middle path, the middle way, to live a spiritual life by balancing his material and spiritual life. Instead of swinging from one extreme to another, he chose balance, just enough comfort to sustain his practice, but not so much that it distracted him. After making that decision, he decided to take some food. After a long time of fasting, picture him, walls of ribs, hands shaking. And yet, He knew he couldn't make progress on an empty stomach. He grabbed his alms bowl and went begging for food. This simple act of accepting nourishment was radical for him after years of denial. All those 5 monks had high expectations for him. They'd believed in his potential, thought he'd reach liberation through austerity. When they saw him taking food, they were disappointed. Their faces fell when they saw him break his fast. They said, "Oh, what a disappointment. We believed in him, we had so many expectations, and now he's taking food. Maybe soon he will go back to his palace and live a normal life again. The best decision is to leave him." Their disappointment wasn't just about the food. It was about shattered hopes. They thought if he accepted comfort, he'd lose his way. So these 5 monks left Prince Siddhartha. One by one, they walked away, heading back into the forest without him. After his alms round, he returned to the forest, and he saw that everyone had left. He returned to where he'd been practicing and realized he was completely alone. No one was there. Prince Siddhartha was alone. Imagine that moment, his companions gone, the silence enveloping him. Then he found this perfect environment, this perfect place to focus more on himself, because he was all alone. Alone and free from expectations, he could finally dive deep. One day, he sat under the Bodhi tree, and he became awakened, he became enlightened. Under that tree, in perfect solitude, he attained the awakening we celebrate every Vesak day. This solitude, when used in the correct way, can be a blessing for you. If you use your alone time wisely, it can become a doorway to insight. Yet the same solitude can be turned into a curse. But if you let fear or boredom take over, it can feel like a prison. Many people complain to me about loneliness. I hear this every week. I feel empty. I don't know what to do. How do I manage my mind when I'm alone? I always say to them, when you're lonely, your thought process generates a certain energy within you, and that energy can be negative. Negative thought patterns feed on themselves, and before you know it, you're spiraling. According to science, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. In physics class, you probably learned that energy changes form, but doesn't vanish. So you have negative energy within you. You can't destroy it. You can't just erase that weight on your mind. What we're trying to do in this life is not to destroy negative energy, but to convert that negative energy into something positive. Your job is alchemy, turning lead into gold, so to speak. How can we convert loneliness, this energy, into something positive? That's the million-dollar question, right? One of the biggest reasons why people feel lonely is because they lack an aim or goal in their life. Without a direction, your mind just wanders, picking at insecurities. If they have a goal, something they should work on, they don't feel as lonely because they have something to engage with. A purpose pulls you forward, even if you're sitting by yourself. You can have either material goals or spiritual goals, but everyone must have a spiritual goal, no matter what life they come from. Whether you want a new career, a healthier body, or deeper peace, make sure there's a spiritual element in there. Because one day, we all will reach a point in our lives where we are alone with no one else around us. It's inevitable. Death, illness, separation. There will be times we face ourselves completely alone. If we don't have any spiritual quality that we have practiced within ourselves, we'll start feeling lonely again and again, and that negative energy will build up. Without inner resources, you'll keep circling back to that dark place. Sometimes it may be too late to correct it. And that's a scary thought. What if we wait until it's impossible to find balance? The best thing is to learn how to convert negative energy into something positive. So let's talk about some practical steps. To do that, you have to have a goal and an aim for yourself. Sit down and ask, what do I really want to achieve with my life? Always ask yourself, what should I do in my life? Who should I become? What should I build? What qualities should I work on? Get curious about your own evolution. What traits do you admire in others? What weaknesses keep tripping you up? We will always find qualities that need improvement, mistakes, weaknesses within us. There's no shortage of things to work on. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. If we work on those weaknesses and correct them, time will help us become more successful, more productive, happier, and more peaceful. Growth compounds over time. The small changes add up. But to do that, you need time to focus on yourself. You can't expect transformation if you're always distracted. What gives you the best time to focus on yourself is the time when you are all alone. That solo space is your laboratory for self-discovery. That is why I always say, people need time during the day just for themselves. Think of it as essential maintenance for your mind. Call it me time. Having me time during the day is essential. Even a little bit of solitude can recharge your batteries. So I would say, As a practical thing, apply this to your life. Have a separate at least 15 minutes no matter how much time you spend, but if it is for yourself, that is helpful. I'm talking zero distractions, no phone, no music, no Netflix. Spend at least 15 minutes sitting down, being by yourself all alone. It might feel weird at first, but give it a try. Not with your mobile phone, not with Netflix, not with movies, just be by yourself. Resist the urge to fill every moment with noise or entertainment. Then learn how to be with your own thoughts. Notice what rises: judgment, anxiety, maybe even creativity. Only then can we be more focused on ourselves. When you learn to sit with your own mind, it becomes a powerful ally. I hope you got some idea about how to convert loneliness into solitude. That's the heart of today's teaching. Flip the script on loneliness. Apply this little practice to your life and enjoy the solitude. Give yourself permission to experiment, see what happens when you lean into alone time rather than running away from it. Thanks for spending this time with me here on Inner Guide Galaxy. If you found this episode helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment to share your experience, and don't forget to subscribe for more weekly insights. Until next time, take care and enjoy your solitude.